Hello, this is update for March 25, 2024, day 761 of the war, end of the date update. Also catch up for March 23 and 24. There's not much strategically to provide updates. These days less focused on what's going on with China, uh, so more focused on what's happening around Ukraine. Um, so I'm gonna just jump straight to the situation on the battlefield. Generally speaking, Russian pressure is lower and remains on the lower end. Don't have good explanation for it, but that's just for what it is for right now. Does not mean that the front line is stable in the long run for Ukraine. The meat grinder happens and really means that Ukraine has fewer and fewer, let's say, capable and willing defenders on the battlefield. And that's just where the process goes. Surely Russia is losing, soldiers as well, but as we all know, this is war of attrition, and Russia simply can afford to do that. There is no problem with that for Russia in the long run. With the if we keep the status quo, this status quo really means Russia's win over Ukraine in the long run. Obviously, this is a straightforward, a straight line extrapolation, but in life, much more complicated like that. So, but at the same that having said that, there is always chance to win if you change your strategy. But as long as Ukraine is not changing strategy, not changing its approach, and I'm talking Ukraine as society. I'm not talking about Ukrainian, president, a political top, or military top, because there is no hope there. There is only hope in society, and if society will, finds strength to change, there is hope. Um, Otherwise, obviously, there's, as I described, it goes in very clear direction. Everything, and in the process, there probably will be 1917 moment in Ukraine, as I mentioned many times before. But going back to the situation on the front line, I'm gonna do a walkthrough in a clockwise fashion, the way I always do. So, first situation along the state border remains sort of the same. This Ukrainian, I call it stunt, continues with no actual success and just destruction and waste of resources, as I stated many times before. Uh, Russian side is there's despite all of this um, fear mongering that Russia is about to invade from northeast and towards Kiev. Uh, Russian forces are not ready yet. There's not enough of them, and maybe if they do invade, that will end up pretty badly for Russia again. Simply because you really need a large an invading army of between 300 to 500,000 troops, and Russia does not have those troops available at the moment. Not trained, not supplied properly, and so on. So this is not only troops, but this also means you need all sort of military equipment, uh, artillery, tanks, everything. You need mortars and so on. So it's just not there yet. I'm sure that Russia probably working on that, but uh, it's um, it's not there, as I said. Now let's move to the North Luhansk front line. Things here are fairly quiet. The only stable area of pressure by Russia is around this village Terny. It's very clear Russian troops are trying to get to this stream and basically eliminate Ukrainian bridgehead on the eastern side of it. Otherwise, things fairly quiet and stable here. Now let's move to the North Donbass front line. Things here also fairly quiet. There is some kind of probing Russian attack around from village towards village Rozdolivka. without any success. Again, this is pretty weak, just probing, and doesn't probably mean much at this point. Now let's look at the situation in the southern sector. Things here remain more or less the same. Fairly weak Russian pressure in Klishchiivka, and things so far are stable west of Bakhmut. Not stable in the long run, but for now, there's no major Russian advances. I do want to state that for all intents and purposes, effectively, Russian troops control this village, Ivanivske. And they probably regrouping for the attack towards basically Chasiv Yar and Stupochki. Essentially, the next goal is Konstantinivka, which is here. Now let's move to central Donbass front line, where there's main Russian pressure. The pressure west of Avdiyivka somewhat subsided. The end result is that Russian troops are controlling the village Orlivka, Tonenke, and partially controlling Berdychi. So this was kind of like defensive line after fall of Avdiyivka that Ukrainian troops were holding, and effectively that defensive line is breached. Not completely, but in the process, essentially most of it has been breached. So we'll see where that leads. But at the same time, the pressure is much lower. Again, don't have good explanation for it. Either exhaustion and losses on the Russian side, and they also need replenishment. We'll see what's going on there, but so far the pressure is definitely on the lower end there. Where the pressure remains relatively high and much higher than up here in the north is in the south, in this Marinka, Novomykhailivka area, where Russian troops continue their strong pressure. They had some success in Novomykhailivka, so essentially, as I mentioned before, Ukrainian forces are in process of losing Novomykhailivka, essentially. Not quite there yet, but probably 50% through. Now let's move to the next section of the front line, Zaporizhzhia. Things here fairly quiet. Some pretty weak Russian pressure near Urozhaine, also in the Robotina area. So, but otherwise, it's fairly quiet section of the front line. Let's finish with the situation along the Dnipro River. Things here are quiet. Both sides don't have sort of resources to move in decisive way for each side. So status quo remains. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Until next time. Bye bye.